Hey, everybody, come on in, come on in, come on in. Let me remind you that this will be shown um, also tomorrow from 6 to 8 a.m. This is for broadcast at 6, between 6 and 8 a.m. Central Standard Time on AM 950 radio. So please remember that. But because you're the morning stars and you're here, you all get a chance to get a preview of what's on the air in the morning. So do me a favor, continue to like and share the show so that we can continue to build our community, okay? Please do that, everybody. Like and share the show and thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like the show. Everybody like the show, everybody who's watching. Because when you do that, you help our algorithm. Okay, so we're going to be up in 10 seconds. Finally, I'm having to do that bit of housekeeping. So, 5, 4. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to talk to you today about birthright citizenship. And the backdrop is we've got migrants who are being brought into the United States. We've had Ukrainians who've been brought into the United States. We're talking about legal immigration, illegal immigration, and now the 14th Amendment. They're part of the so-called slave amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. The 13th, which freed African Americans, well, black people from slavery. 14th Amendment, which made us Americans. Remember, that was the debate. Forced into glory. Lerone Bennett, the great historian Lerone Bennett from Johnson Publishing Company. Indeed, he was a Morehouse man who was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's classmate. He wrote a book that final work of his life, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, did he take major hits for it, because it was Forced into Glory, Abraham Lincoln's White Dream. Because Abraham Lincoln had not intended for us to stay here. And on record, he did say, if I could find a way to keep slavery and keep the Union together, I would do that. And, well, what we need to do is send them overseas, them being Black Americans. And so the fight was to make us citizens, which is what the 14th Amendment did. So this is rooted in the Black American struggle. The 15th Amendment, of course, gave Black men in particular the right to vote. Women could not vote at all at that time. But the president said on NBC on Sunday, I want to end birthright citizenship. And that's interesting because it would take a constitutional amendment to do that, I'm assuming. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, but he's like throwing a bomb in the middle of, not a bomb, but a bomb in the middle of a really hot political discussion and a hot time socially, culturally, politically. A time where Americans, I think, are really at a crossroads. Who are we? Where do we go from here? Are we going to have chaos, or are we going to be a community? Dr. King asked that question, but boy, oh boy, it applies now. So let's talk about that, everybody. And I want you to weigh in on this discussion, everybody. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, and share the show on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I'm also sharing it on Reverend Jesse Jackson's page on Facebook, the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That's my page, everybody. Please join me there. I'm on X at Santita J and the Santita Jackson Show. But I'm now on Blue Sky at santitajackson.bsky.social. So please become my friend over there. What is birthright citizenship, and what is President-elect Trump talking about? Well, he was on an interview on NBC, and he wants to keep the dreamers here. He wants to keep them here. But he said, you know what, birthright citizenship, we need to end. We need to end that. What is birthright citizenship? Well, this amendment came in 1868. 1868, and it granted Black people initially, that was the original point of this bill, of this amendment, to make us citizens, because we were not. Even having built the country, having been here a couple of hundred years, we were not citizens yet. We were not. We were not. So let's talk about this, everybody. Let's talk about this because now this is part of the discussion. U.S. President elect Donald Trump, according to the Deccan Herald, aims to deport all immigrants in the U.S. over a 4 year period. Not in one day, not in one fell swoop, but he said over a 4 year period. And he wants a deal to protect the dreamers. Okay. But he said he plans to take executive action on his first day in office to try to end birthright citizenship. What is birthright citizenship? Dwight McKee, Dr. D, the dean of the Ma for Redemption Project, one of the founders of the National Action Network and Operation Push, active in Breadbasket. His activism goes back almost 60 years. T.O. Hardeman, The Violence Interrupters. What is the name of your book, T.O. Hardeman? Oh, but you got to unmute yourself, my dear. Interrupting violence. I know.
Okay, my fault. It's Interrupting Gun Violence, the Public Health Approach. You can find my book on Amazon, always on Amazon. Then I host a WVON radio show every Sunday morning from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. on WVON 1690 a.m.
At 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then, of course,
Yes.
after that, you can come over to Keep Hope Alive. And then Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, head of the Black Legislative Caucus there. Well, let me start with you because I would think that you would have a very interesting take on this, given the fact that blacks in Texas, it took people a while to tell us that we had been free. So we got Juneteenth. And you've got the border crisis, so to speak, even though Texas, to people in that part of the world, is called El Norte, because it really is part of Mexico historically. And when you get there, you feel it too. So, what about this call to end birthright citizenship?
Well, Santita, it's great to be on with such a dynamic group of panelists. We know, and I appreciate you giving the history level lesson of where birthright citizenship comes from. And I want to be very clear, birthright citizenship was because we were brought here, we being Africans, we were brought here to America, African Americans, for slavery. That's why we were brought here. So we were brought here against our will. And when we were brought here, we were not citizens of the United States of America. We were citizens of Africa, where they stole us from and brought us here on the slave ships. And so the 14th Amendment was passed. It's called the Due Process Clause to give former slaves citizenship and to make sure that you protected African Americans that weren't born here. So that weren't from here originally. So any person, it would protect former slaves and it made them citizens of the United States of America. So that was the initial reason why the 14th Amendment was passed. And you eloquently talked about, Texas has a long history of it in terms of Juneteenth, where we didn't get our papers that we were free until over a year later in Galveston, Texas. So Texas is certainly a border state. And I can tell you that this state is already preparing for mass deportations. One of the things that you didn't mention that Trump said in that interview was, yes, that he was kind of coy about it when you think about it. Said, yeah, I don't want to break up families. No, I don't want to do that. So that's why I want to send them all back. In other words, you're going to send back legal citizens of this country along with the undocumented, send them all back. So therefore, he won't say or be accused of breaking up families because he's going to just send back the undocumented. He said, I'll send all y'all back to wherever you're from. And this to me is somewhat problematic. And why do I say that? It's because we know that America was founded on the backs of immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants. Immigrants have contributed to the economic fabric of this country. African Americans like no one else, right? And then we can never forget about the Indians, the original settlers of America, who were
the people who are indigenous to America.
Indigenous people, correct, correct. So my point is that we should never be insensitive about the plight of immigrants, because we were once immigrants to this country. Many people come here because they're refugees. Many people come here because of very brutal conditions in their country. And so, as long as, but I say that to say we should be focused on immigration reform, where we create a pathway to citizenship legally. But right now, our immigration system is broken. Our immigration system is very convoluted. It is very expensive. And I think that this is a mistake that President-elect Trump is making by trying to repeal this section of the 14th Amendment. First of all, it would take 3/4 of the House and the Senate. He won't get that. The second way he could do it is through a convention of the states. That's never happened before with a constitutional amendment. So this is not as easy that he can strike a pen, wave a wand, say, this is what I want. Even though he controls the Supreme Court, I can't see the Supreme Court allowing him to undo a constitutional amendment that's been in place for over 150 years, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. So this is not going to be as easy as President Trump is alleging, but he will attempt to do it. I do think that he will have mass deportations. I just don't think that he can end birthright citizenship the way that he wants to do it. So therefore, I think that he will make it very difficult. He will, through Project 2025, they will put the National Guard. They will authorize them, just like ICE, to round up immigrants, migrants, and put them in camps. One of those camps will be in Texas, where they will basically be, to me, slave labor until they're sent wherever they're sent. They will be slave labor. Make no mistake about it. And we all know that the 13th Amendment is an exception to slavery, is involuntary servitude, meaning that if you're confined, there's an exception for slavery. So he can make them legal slaves under the detention when they're held, in these camps. So I think this is certainly going to be very troubling for many immigrants across this country. And I think that he's going to target them relentlessly to pursue his base and for political purposes, and to exploit them for corporate gain for their basically labor.
Dwight McKee, what are your thoughts? Dwight McKee? Or we'll come back to Dwight.
Yeah, I concur with Reynolds, because the fact of the matter is that birthright citizenship should never be a question. You told me it's been in policy in the Constitution for over 150 something years. It shouldn't happen at all. No president should actually think that way. Now, I understand where Donald Trump is coming from when you talk about illegal immigration. The system has been broken for whatever reason. We can point fingers all over the place, but we have a broken system. It needs to be fixed. But when he made that comment about even not separating families, he would send up the family members with them, even if they're over here legally. That's an issue. That's a problem right there. But you have to understand, you have a president now that basically has overcome every obstacle, whether he set up the obstacle itself or whether obstacles were in his way. You have a president that has set obstacles up and he overcame them, and he has a vendetta. It appears that he's on like a mission to really exact some type of revenge against certain segments of our society, meaning illegal immigrants in particular. Now, I'm a law-abiding citizen, all right? And I believe people should come over here legally myself. So I understand that. But at the same time, it should be done in a humane way, a humane approach to solving this issue. So he's talking about over 4 years now, Santita. So what would happen is that, no, the verdict is still out. Trump, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Trump controls what the Senate is Republican, the House is Republican as well. Am I correct?
At this time, we don't know what will happen.
At this time, right. So he has a lot of power right there. He's yielding a lot of power right there. And like Reynolds said, I don't think he can control the U.S. Supreme Court all the way, but anything is possible with Trump, because this guy has no filters. He's straight up. He plans to do somewhat what he talks about. But this is a real thin line right here. A lot of families and children will be placed in some horrific conditions once again here in the United States under this type of administration when it comes to mass deportations. All right, we have to think about the children. Right.
But you know what? I think we have to peel away the onion. I think that peel this onion, because it does matter how we got here. Because it's, and I've read this to you on the air, one of our most prominent entrepreneurs started a government program to bring migrants in here to go to work. And it has become such an issue that there are workers all over the country who are beginning to sue corporations because they're saying you're going past American workers, many of whom even want to unionize, or whether they're unionized or not, you're going past them to bring these people in for cheap. And so we've got to look at the why, because remember, this is the most corporate friendly court in more than 100 years. And so they rule with business, and bringing these migrants in is a business decision. Like bringing us in was a business decision. This had nothing to do. We keep thinking this is about what we look like. And no. First of all, they didn't bring lazy people in. They didn't bring people in who were not bright. They didn't bring in people who were industrious, who were not industrious. They brought us in because we could do everything. Yes. And we were not paid. And we built the country. Immigrants didn't build America. Immigrants built on America. They're necessary for America. They help it to go and grow, but they came to a place that we built. And I think we have to stop these people from passing that fiction along. Because America didn't just happen. It got to be this superpower because they didn't have to pay for it. They didn't have to pay for the land. They didn't have to pay for the labor. All of the buildings in Washington, all the monuments, we built them. All of the office buildings, the historical ones, the White House, we built it twice.
Yes, we did. And Santita, also, I want to say that when you look at the journey of African American people to America, there shouldn't be no argument. You know, I do understand, like I say, what everybody's talking about, but our people were the only people that did not immigrate over here. Okay, our people were forced over here. You know, the whole history, the transatlantic slave trade was one of the most barbaric, crimes against humanity that ever existed. All the African people that jumped off the slave ships into the Atlantic Ocean, you still have skeletons at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean today. And once they got off the slave ships, they were brought to Virginia, North, South Carolina, and all over the United States and placed up on the auction for sale to go to these plantations, like saying we built a country. So this is what's called a slap in the face of all the work our forefathers and ancestors put down here. But we're living in the year 2024 now, and I post a lot on my professional LinkedIn account. And, Donald Trump's the president. I'm living in reality. That doesn't mean I'm crazy about Donald Trump, but he is in the position. So we have to find a way to work with him, whether we would like to work with him or not. So he might need some guidance. Hopefully the elected officials that are in power, Rep. Reynolds, could come together and provide some type of guidance to the president to help him make some humane decisions here. It shouldn't be like, pulling everybody together, just pulling them together like you pull like horses together in a stable and stuff like that. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't take place like that. It shouldn't even be like this real law enforcement type of military mindset going about it, because that puts you in the thought process that you're about a new regime is taking over. So we're going out to get everybody right now and demonizing everybody that might appear to be illegal. And believe it or not, some legal people are going to get swept up in this situation as well, in this scenario. So that's what I would be more mindful of.
There's no question, but let us never ever forget the indigenous people, because we're on their land. We have never lived up to a treaty. I was shocked. 48% of Oklahoma is supposed to go back to them. That was a Supreme Court decision just a few years ago. And they were finding a way to dial that back. This is their country. We're sitting on their land. A whole lot of wrong has happened here. We're not the only people who were wronged. First, when you steal someone's country from them, their continent, There,
Yeah, the
wait a
continent.
minute. The whole of the North, Central, and South America is indigenous. It's like someone going into Africa. We've seen it. Oh, excuse me, South Africa, Zimbabwe. Hello, which used to be Rhodesia. You go there. Elon Musk is African. Does he look
Hmm,
African to you? No, he's an Afrikaner.
hmm.
But he feels he has as much right to Africa, to South Africa, as anyone. So we need to be careful because we've seen this before. So let's not leap past the indigenous people. We've
I,
relegated them to reservations. They can barely vote. Their health outcomes are worse than black folks. They're treated horribly in this country. And we can't forget that. And you know what? The tragedy is they've been removed from our sight. So we
hmm.
don't even see them suffering until you go on a reservation and you go, oh my gosh, you've never seen the kind of poverty and deprivation. It's horrifying. It's like the Mississippi Delta.
Hmm. Well,
No,
also I
no,
want
no,
to just add,
we got to look at all of that because we're not going
well,
to be blessed
yeah.
until, as I bring Dwight McKee onto the stage. But see, I want you to, say what you were going to say. I would never
No, I just
block.
something just briefly here, out of respect for everybody else here today. Also, we have to be honest about it. There's a shortage of good workers in the United States. I just had to put it out there. I'm not going to play with that, because that's the reason why the immigrants are filling some of these jobs, and they're making a lot of these corporations become stable again after this pandemic took place. Because just speaking about Chicago, Rev Reynolds, about 300,000 people never returned back to work in downtown Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a ghost town downtown Chicago. So a lot of jobs, in fact, they need workers. Don't get me wrong. I would rather see us have workers from the United States, but them immigrants are playing a valuable role in working them jobs people do not want to work. And I can go, there's a list of jobs people not trying to work, and
Well, if
immigrants are
they be
doing
respected, the thing is, people, the work that I do, I want to be respected for it. We're not paid respectable prosperity wages.
I understand.
People want to work, but if you're going to treat me as an enslaved person on this job and disrespect me, which is what that's the pushback. We haven't talked about that.
Yes.
People are pushing back against that. And so, and then with this planned demolition that happened, there's a report that came out. No one's talking about it. I saw it on C-SPAN this morning that came out from Congress that talked about how the restrictions imposed during COVID savaged the country.
That's why I mentioned it. Yes.
So when you had a virus that was survivable, it was the comorbidities that took people out. Everybody, what COVID did was unmask your issues, and so whatever issues you had were amplified by the virus. We have to get honest about this, about what's going on here. Dwight McKee, birthright citizenship, and I know you have a forest and trees, the forest, and the trees and the grass and the weeds view of this thing. Would you help us with that?
Well, uh, we have to be very honest about what the motives of these are. As the brother said, is that we have to really understand what the motives are. For the first time in the history of the country, the immigrants will be almost equal in population to the white uh, people that stole the country. And so they will legally be able to vote their interest and the interests of people they're allied with, and be legitimately competitive with white people for the control of the country. And so this is a plot to make sure that there are not enough uh, immigrant people of color, to be able to take over the country. And secondly, the Republicans believe that if when these people get the right to vote, and most of these people who are they're trying to run out of the country will have the right to vote, and when they go through the legal process, is that what would happen is that uh, the Republicans believe that they'll never be in office again because they believe that most of these guys will become Democrats. And so this is as political as it is economic. The reality is that they see these Mexicans and these people of color as a threat to who is able to control this land of milk and honey.
So the president cannot end this, before I come back to you, Dwight, Representative Reynolds, unless there's a constitutional amendment?
Correct. A constitutional amendment in order to do it legally. He's going to try, I believe, to do it through executive order because he's
How,
already
I mean, with an amendment, because I mean, what that's frightening, because with that means he could try that with any number of
exactly.
amendments.
I,
So I mean,
I,
how
I
would that
think
work?
I
How?
think that's why I said I think the Supreme Court is pro Trump, no question about it. But I don't believe that they're willing to upend the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. I don't think that they're willing to do that. That way, if he could do that, then he could say, okay, next thing he does is the 13th Amendment. It says, oh, you know what? We got slavery again. It's not that simple to amend the United States Constitution. So therefore, I do believe that they will not allow him to do it. I think he will attempt to do it, but I think it will be repealed at the Supreme Court. There will be litigation once he did it. There will be a lawsuit filed, and it would go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. So yes, I do think that the U.S. Supreme Court, although they're in his pocket, they're not going to trample on the United States Constitution when it comes to the 14th Amendment. If they allow him to do that, we might as well hang it up. There'll be total anarchy. That means that the Constitution will have no meaning. A president could say, with the power of a pen, says, okay, you know what? Women, you can't, the 19th Amendment, no more. No. Women can't vote anymore. Too many women voted against me, or the provisions of a president serving 2 terms. I think he would just say, okay, I'm the president for life. So therefore, I do believe they will put some checks and balances on that. So that's the only comfort I have, that Trump won't be able to accomplish his goal of ending birthright citizenship. I want to say something quickly. I think Dwight is spot on. I think that it's economic and power. They are afraid that once these immigrants become U.S. citizens, that they will vote against them. That means they will vote Democrat. And so they want to hold on to power. They see the change in demographics in this country. They see the white population shrinking. And this is white men afraid of the change in demographics. And then Trump has captured that white grievance when it comes to their immigrants are stealing their jobs. Immigrants are stealing their votes. They're cheating. They're raping. They're committing crime. And so they're the boogeyman. So it paints them in the picture of, just like they do with DEI, didn't earn it, right? Black people that are unqualified are getting your jobs. So here I am. I'm going to end DEI. I'm going to stop this massive immigration from happening so we can take our country and make America great again. So Dwight, I totally agree with you. A lot of the calculus that they have is that they don't want these people to be U.S. citizens that are likely going to vote Democrat in the future. So they want to hold on to power by any means necessary. And therefore, it's not in their best interest to have all of these immigrants voting in future elections.
Yes, it's a good breakdown.
Well, I mean, Dwight McKee, it's interesting because the Latino population, many of them trend, because for social reasons, Republican. I mean, and let's just keep it real. It's the presidency has become increasingly imperial. It's not just Trump. I mean, this is, and again, I'm not making excuses. I step back and look at what's happening here. I mean, they had meetings, meetings where they would discuss who they would kill once a week at the White House. I mean, who does that? They do. I mean, the presidency increasingly has there's been more and more power concentrated there. I think we look at it now because President Trump is such he's such an outsized figure, right? But I think it's time for us to step back and look at the presidency itself and what it's supposed to be. This is a time for us. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, T.O. Hardeman, and I know you talk about it on your show on WVON every Sunday from 6 to 7 Central Standard Time. And Dwight McKee, we've got to step back and see who we are now.
But I think what he's calculating is that there are some people here, immigrants here illegally, but they also have families. And if he can get them out of the country, he can get them out legally. But if they leave, the people their families have to make a choice between staying here or following them. And so his logic is that if he can get the illegals out, that the mothers and the fathers of those who were born illegally will also have to make a choice between do they follow their families and keep them together, or they let the families be split.
Well, Dwight,
so that's how he gets to be so many put out the country.
Well, why do you think he's giving the Dreamers a pass?
I was just about to say that, Santita.
Okay. Now,
because they are what Teal said. They are the working class, the exploited working class. And they're the marginal profit for a lot of these businesses. And so it's the economic advantage to keep them but to take everybody else out.
So, I mean, what do you think will be the social fallout, Dwight? Because as the legislator on our panel said, you understand the inner workings of government, and you also know how to stop government. That's how I met you. denying basically the equivalent of the president of your state, which is what the governor is. Because there's a healthy tension, T.O. and Dwight, between states' rights and federalism. And there's a lot of power in the states. That's why we don't pay close enough attention to our states' races, because the most powerful people, governors are extremely powerful. And in the legislature, you're extremely powerful. The presidency is decided there. You decide who goes to Washington. Those are all your decisions. My concern is, in a state like Texas, where does this conversation go? Because you all even sometimes call yourself, the Republic of Texas. And now people are having some real discussions about seceding from various states. There's a lot going on in America today.
Santita, I can tell you that our land commissioner has already said, Don Buckingham has already said that they are prepared to have the land that Trump needs to hold these undocumented immigrants and their families. They've already said, yes, Trump, we're ready. And so the MAGA Texas leadership, whether it's Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Attorney General Ken Paxton, they're all MAGA. They're all beholden to Donald Trump. And so they're already ready. They already said, hey, we got the green light, baby. Come on, let's go. We're ready. And so Trump, once he does this, he has the land that they can build the tents to house these immigrants. And so Texas leadership, Republican leadership, is ready, and they're like, "Come on, let's go. We're ready." And so,
wait a minute, hold on, wait. Let me ask you this then, because you saw what happened during Hurricane Katrina.
Yes,
Dwight McKee.
Oh, I remember that.
The Department of Labor suspended their labor requirements and brought in migrants from South and Central America to rebuild the Gulf Coast. As we had the largest deportation of people, principally Black people, because we lost a lot of political power because we were dispersed and dispensed all over the country. They brought them in to rebuild the Gulf. You remember that?
Yes,
Because that's bordering where you are.
that's
But
right.
this, Santita, presents an opportunity to recategorize when people come over into the United States, give them some work orders or work permits, then they go back to their country and they eventually work on a pathway to citizenship. So we can really think out of the box right now and make it work for everybody, because you're still going to need the workers out there once they deport everybody. Then who's going to fill them jobs? We talk about it all the time. But let me say this, because I always speak up for African people as well. Due to the fact that African countries provided the palm tree oil and rubber during World War II, the European colonial powers would have lost that world war if it was not for the continent of Africa. People need to understand that. So when it comes to African people, we're not just birthright citizenship, we resource right citizenships too, because the continent of Africa helped all the European countries in so many ways, all the natural resources. So the bottom line is that when it comes to Donald Trump, I would like to see him. And we have to understand Donald Trump has a relationship with the president of North Korea, president of Russia, and he might think as himself as being a dictator. He's not going to answer to nobody. In his mind, I can see him right now. And I'm not even against Donald Trump. I may be against some of his policies, but you can see in his mind of minds, his ego is like, look, nobody can tell me anything.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
the man,
Hold
the
on.
most
Stop.
powerful man.
Don't even
I'm
go
talking
down.
about the way he thinks.
Wait a minute. No. I'm saying we got a president who said he wasn't going to pardon his son. He's pardoned his son and won't think about pardoning all these people he put in prison for laws that he created that would have sent his son to jail, to prison.
I got it. Yeah.
And ain't nobody talking about that, because I want these thousands of people who he incarcerated. I want him to commute their sentences and give them pardons. He ain't thinking
We
about
talk about it all the time. But
No, I'm just saying, if we're going to talk about arrogance, hubris,
okay.
if we're going to talk about someone's personality, we keep giving, everybody keeps going after Trump, and we keep giving this guy a pass. When you got lives and families have been destroyed, and I'm not hearing him say anything. I just heard him say, I thought about it over the Thanksgiving holiday, and my political enemies. Yeah, well, I've lived with political enemies. I don't care who was in the White House, and I got to deal with it. Me, and you too.
Yeah, but if
So
Trump gets away,
what is this?
No, but if Trump gets away with mass deportations in an inhumane way and change parts of the Constitution, if he's successful, what's going to happen next? That's what we're concerned about, right? And the only reason I mentioned Putin and I mentioned the president of North Korea, because that's the mindset of a Trumpian. That's all right. I'm saying. I'm not against him. I'm not even coming at him. That's just the way he thinks.
No. I'm not coming at him either. I'm just saying, we keep talking about Trump's personality and the way he thinks as if he has the power. The presidency, I'm trying to tell you, is not even structured in a way where one person can come in and just govern pell-mell. It doesn't work. They will not let you do that. It doesn't work that way. It really does not. I'm saying, if you look at his kitchen cabinet, the people who are around him run the world. The president is the spokesperson for those folks. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, as they're cutting through, firing all these civil servants, one place they're not going to touch is the Pentagon, which is Elon Musk's money. Ain't nobody talking about that. SpaceX is a Pentagon project.
That's right.
Boeing.
A lot of people don't know it, Santita. Tell it.
Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, whenever you are sending money to these wars, we are paying them. We keep acting as if someone can just go in and be president and they're going to do this. It doesn't work like that.
It's not going to be that easy. I agree.
No, I'm just trying to tell you, I've been so close to this thing. I know it doesn't work like that. The presidency is a very, very controlled institution. You don't get close to it unless you're going to be in it. It doesn't work that way.
All right.
You see the restrictions you have as a state representative. You see just the genius of this system. And I don't need to tell you, the head of the Black Legislative Caucus of Texas, State Representative Ron Reynolds, can tell you that this thing, it is, I mean, if you just look at the state of Texas, and it could be its own country. It's so big, it's so rich. The government has enormous power, and they can't just, when you got into your office, the people who started coming to surround you, Representative Reynolds, you went, oh my gosh, wait a minute. And as you continue to expand your authority, you see you see who really runs your state, don't you?
Absolutely.
That's all, T.O., baby, that's all I'm trying to say.
No,
when you get up in these spaces, you really see who runs this thing, and you go, oh, okay. So we keep talking about how he's saying, why don't you ask how a president thinks who would, I don't mind him pardoning his son. I think he should have just said it all along, because everybody knew he was going to do it. And whether Trump got in or not, if he had 4 more years, he was going to pardon him. He was not going to let his precious son serve a day in prison. Wasn't going to let it happen. He should have said it. Now Democrats in Washington are all up in arms because you know what, the fallout is happening all over the states because Democrats look like hypocrites. And they look like hypocrites for not telling the truth on our level, to say, I knew he was going to do that, instead of, well, he loves his son. You know what? Big Mama loves her son too.
That's right.
And so does Big Papa. Oh, and by the way, Big Mama lost a couple of grandchildren. She didn't want to lose another one. Sound familiar? But I don't hear anyone singing that song for her. I'm simply saying, look, y'all, there's something to me that's going on with this conversation on birthright citizenship that I don't want it to go over our heads. And I know this is above my pay grade too, because I'm like, why is he talking about this like he knows that this is an amendment to the Constitution? So I guess my question is, what is he really talking about? You understand what's really going on here?
What I'm telling you, Santita, he's going in with the mindset of a dictator. That's what he's talking about. It may not happen, but that's the way he thinks. He believes he's going to get anything done that he proposes by the power base that he has, like Elon Musk, the Senate, the House. He just believes that's the way he carries himself. I mean, he's going to reach some stumbling blocks. When Barack Obama was the president, he had a lot of obstructionists. He had people.
I think they're all doing it. I mean,
yes,
we're seeing
everybody.
Kamala Harris, her message on price gouging and on economic populism was working, but according to wonderful reporting by Touré, and other people have been saying, because I've been following these stories, he is a big lawyer. I think he might be the general counsel for Uber. He said, "Oh no, wait, don't do that. See, because our money's going to dry up if we do that."
It depends on which way, morally and politically, the evangelicals and black people go. If we see there's a moral, a moral situation that needs to be dealt with, then we will find out that the evangelicals, who are supposed to be so pro-family, will take it as a mandate to resist, and they're the heart of the Democratic Party. And if black people assume that this is a reflection on them and themselves and their situation, we can apply enough political pressure to stop this from happening.
How would we do that?
By massive protests and massive resistance. The billionaires that are with them, some who are promoting this, are billionaires because they have markets. And if we was to compete against them through their businesses and decide to resist some of what they're doing, then I think that they would have to rethink a lot of their positions. If the evangelicals rise up and say, no, not this, I think you'll see a change in that administration.
Well, Michael Brandon said there's no morality within the corruption and criminality of the incoming presidency. A coup no different than Syria. What do you all think about that?
I'll let somebody else respond first, then I'll make a few comments.
Come on, Teal, you ready for
All right,
this?
I'll go for it. No, I kind of agree with what the young man said there, based on the fact that even though we had an election, let's be straight up, we had an election in the United States. Trump won the electoral vote, and he gained more votes than Mrs. Harris. Let's just be straight. But the appearance is like he's just taking over. I just have to put it out there. Whether people agree with me or not, he has that. Come on, now I come out the streets of Chicago, Santita. I'm a grown man, and I know how it is when I want to take over something, right? I know how that mindset goes. So to me, Trump is like a new male lion that just took over the pride. And when he takes over the pride, that male lion has to destroy the pride that was there before he took over. I don't want to compare him to a lion. Don't get me wrong, this is the mindset, the perception there. We know I come up and I understand, even in the business world, corporate leaders want to take over, okay? People have that he has it in him. That's just the way it goes. And we have to call it like it is. So I wouldn't say it's a coup all the way, like that type of, because he got voted in. But what he dictates in his spirit, what comes off his spirit is, look, I'm the man. James Brown had that record. Look at me. What do you see? You see a bad mother. That's what we see. That's what we as brothers see in Trump. I'm telling you, and I'm talking to people everywhere. Reynolds, that's what we see in him.
Well,
your father knows Trump. Your father knows Trump
first of all,
better than most people.
And I know the masters of the universe. And I know no one is going to feel that they can step into leadership and have a small ego. You just pray that someone who steps into leadership is guided by God and is humble enough to pray and be guided.
That I agree
by God.
with.
Totally. But be very, very clear. Nobody steps into. You all keep trying to make Biden this humble, sweet. This man has been in power for 50 years. And he let you know how much regard he has for your opinion by his actions with his son over the past week. And we need to stop it. I mean, nothing is, pardon him, but please do me a favor. Don't do me a favor, be fair. And pardon these other folks who you imprisoned for the same offenses that your son would have gone to prison for. He didn't take powder cocaine. He did crack cocaine, which changes you physiologically, biologically. When you take it the first time, it makes you an addict. And he would sit on television talking from the floor of the U.S. Senate, talking about why these people who are out of their minds and deranged and depraved should go to prison. He was talking about his son. And he said his son needs to be pardoned, but he doesn't feel that way about your son or your daughter. And that's a problem for me.
Well, I have a hypothetical for everybody.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk about anyone else's personality. I want to talk about policy. I'm so tired of that.
Well, I have a hypothetical for you, what you call thinking out of the box type of scenario. What if on January 6th of next year, coming up next month, the Democrats organize an insurrection or began a riot? How would they take that? Now, think about that. It's not going to happen. I'm not encouraging that to happen.
Well,
let me make it clear.
I don't know.
What if they were to do that?
All I know is that 2/3 of the police had blue flu that day. I wish you'd explain that to me. I wish you'd explain why they wouldn't let the National Guard be there. I wish you'd explain a lot of things to me. A lot of things about that don't make sense, because I worked on them when I was in college. And you can't make your way around that place when you're above ground. It's a massive, massive place, and you can't breach it. I don't know how that happened. I really don't. Because you had about 50 or 60,000 people at the rally. You didn't have that many people up on the hill. You had a lot of folks. A lot of it was off to me. That having been said, I just know that they just picked up this young man who was suspected of killing Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Health. He wasn't choked like George Floyd. He wasn't shot like Philando Castile. They didn't blow a hole in his body like Ahmaud Arbery. I know they let him eat at McDonald's and they approached him very gently, and they have not even charged him with murder. He's been charged with gun possession. I'm saying we're all being played here. Oh, don't worry. We'll talk about the light-skinned man. I'm sorry. He's actually an Italian American. I'm doing that for you, Representative Ron Reynolds. You were like, Santita, I want to. Yeah. I was like, light-skinned. And he has a master's in engineering from an Ivy League institution, UPenn. I ain't mad. And he left all of these. Dwight was asking me yesterday what I thought about what monopoly money meant. I said, I didn't know, but I heard someone interpret it. They said, oh, Monopoly is a game where the average person can't win. And this guy has a manifesto in which he said, we need to get these people. So nobody wants to talk about, I mean, really? Or choke out like Neely. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. Don't be fooled. And he was of Italian descent. You know, the thing is, Luigi Nicholas Mangione, 26 years of age, born and raised in Maryland. I'm looking at him on the news now. Graduated from UPenn in 2020. He has lived all over the place. And now, wait a minute, the McDonald's where he was arrested, they're receiving threats there because people feel they snitched on him. You can't make this up. Look at God. You can't look. Hey, I'm simply saying, y'all. He said these parasites had it coming. I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done. That's what he said. I'm reading the news right now on CNN. Oh, you know we're going to talk about this tomorrow. Come on. You better follow it. But, you know, I wanted us to talk about birthright citizenship today because it's a cultural conversation. Because in terms of John Holloman, you said it looks staged to you. It looks strange. And when I say that, people get angry with me. I'm like, I've had two brothers in Congress. I worked there before they got there. I know trying to figure out how to get to the mailroom, which was just below us, because I worked for Congressman Savage. You know, we loved him, T.O.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get down there under Lou Anna Peters, who ran the office, Deputy Governor Lou Anna Peters, what she went on to become. You couldn't figure out how to get around that place. Because it is, I mean, the Library of Congress, the Supreme Court, all that stuff is connected somewhere up under them tunnels. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I was like, none of this I can figure out. So, okay, I just want to see. I want a more perfect union, everybody. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
That's what we want, all of us.
I want that. And I want to get some closing thoughts from each of you, because guess what? We're going to be talking about the DOJ in Memphis in the next hour. But tomorrow, I promise you, we'll be talking about Mr. Luigi Mangione, 26 years of age. And it's been 6 days since this happened. And the people who reported him to the police are being threatened because Americans feel that he's a snitch. I told you all, didn't we talk about this? I said, wait a minute. There are a lot of game-changing moments that we've got right now, Tio. That's all, that's all I'm saying. I mean, and I think we need to keep our eyes peeled and our minds open. And you are right, Tio. No matter who's in office, you have to negotiate. Reverend Jackson says you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And you know what? This is a big, 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 big fight. And after these people in power finish fighting, they're going to hug it out. So we need to shut up and stop the name calling ourselves and figure out what we're going to get out of this. I want my black banks back. I want my HBCUs saved. I want my money in my community so I can rebuild my neighborhoods. That's what I want. That's all I want. I don't want freedom of movement, and I don't want to be choked out by the police. How about that part? Boom. How about that? So, I'm going to unmute you, Dwight, because we had some background noise, but hold on. You're going to close this out, Dwight. T.O. Hardeman, your book, pull it up so everybody can see it.
Oh, yeah. Interrupting Gun Violence, the Public Health Approach. You can find my book on Amazon, all right? Amazon. And I'll go on record and say this on your show. I could be wrong, but I believe I'm 98.5% right. I don't think Trump would be successful in revoking people's birthright citizenship in his efforts to do that. I don't think he'll be successful. Just want to put that out there.
98.5.
That's 98.5% right.
Well, go on, take the 100, man. Come on. Just do it. Do it. Do it.
Now, I can't take the 100 there because Trump is something else. Look here, Trump won. A lot of people never really thought he would actually win with all the issues he had, along, with him. So he won. So I wouldn't put it past Trump to pull off something like this. But I'm 98.5% right. I don't think he's going to be successful.
I listened to your show. I knew he was going to win.
Well,
I say that.
I think it's part of the reason that he did win. It's because the people that he said that to was in favor of that. And so there's a lot of white people in this country that thinks exactly like he thinks. And so he didn't hide his strategy to close the borders. And what has happened from that is that he was able to parlay enough voters to put him in office for the purposes of implementing the strategy. So we have to wait and see where it goes. We have to fight for what we believe in. But the fact of the matter is, there has to be a fight because they're very serious on their side about doing this.
And John Holloman keeps talking about your brilliance, as so many people are, and he says you are very blessed. And we have to study and read and think, State Representative Ron Reynolds, because these people are studied. They read this Constitution. I mean, on a very basic level. We got to be, you cannot carry a butter knife into a machete fight. Don't do it. I mean, these folks are prepared. And I remember my father talking to Dexter King, Dr. King's son. May Dexter rest in peace, my beloved friend and brother. He said, son, I want you to be prepared for the fight, because Dexter was a brilliant man. He really was. Understood business and was just a good guy. He said, no one knows just how prepared your father was for this fight. And I had a friend, I can't even say it because I'll have him on the show again, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks, who is one of the most brilliant theologians. He wrote the book, The Politics of Jesus, in which he helps us to understand the historical Jesus. So I have him back on for Christmas. And after he met Reverend, and he had written about Reverend, but he never met him. He said, he is organically brilliant. But I didn't realize how much formal training he has. I said, you do know we're in Chicago, because he had a full scholarship to the University of Chicago, right? A Rockefeller Foundation grant. And he did get a full scholarship to the University of Illinois to help desegregate it in ¡59. Don't he's made it look very easy. But none of the people who have fought these battles and won for us have been light up in the department. Ida B. Wells was brilliant, y'all. Harriet Tubman was brilliant. Fannie Lou Hamer was brilliant. I don't care about degree. No, that woman was brilliant. And you know what? She didn't go to school so she could be told that she couldn't come in the room. How about that part? That's what Duke Ellington said. They asked him, how is it that you're able to write so many different kinds of music? He said, maybe because I didn't go to conservatory to learn that I couldn't. Amelia Boynton said, Dr. King, I need you to come on down here. That's what I need. Jimmy Lee Jackson said, no. I'm not going to fight in this war, not come home and not be able to vote.
Yes.
We're caught up in a lot of foolishness, everybody. Get out here and do give what God has blessed you to give, whatever it is. Because trust me, you are here living in this moment because you are time enough for it. Just know that. God did not send you here ill prepared. You are ready for this fight. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, you close us out. From the great state, the Republic of Texas. I don't know what y'all are, but
Yeah, some call it the sovereign state of Texas, the Lone Star State. Well, Santita, when I was listening to you talk about the brilliance of some of those people whose shoulders we stand on, I was reminded that too many of us are playing checkers while everyone around us is playing chess. We have to get more strategic. We have to be more prepared, and we have to do our due diligence and our homework. We can't ever get caught asleep at the wheel. So it's great to have great dialogue like this, and it's also great to read. You know, I remember one of the things that Carter G. Woodson wrote in The Miseducation of the Negro is that if you want to hide something from somebody ignorant, you know, you put it in the book because they never open it. So it's important for us to talk about reading. And degrees don't make a person intelligent. They really don't. I know a lot of ignorant and dumb people with.
we went to school with them. They have not
Yes.
read books since
You think
the professor since they finished
Yeah.
the class.
some of them are good test takers, some of them, you know, whatever. But the most important thing that we can do as a people is to be educated and to be prepared and to understand what's happening and to be engaged. So again, this platform is great. I'm looking forward to continuing to find solutions, addressing the problems, not saying, hey, woe is me, I'm giving up, but finding solutions so that we know how to pivot and address and move forward as we deal with the Project 2025s that we know are coming.
They're here. They were
Yeah.
implemented in 2022.
Right. Oh,
And so
absolutely.
we're going to pivot. I'm going to give you all another hour today. We're going to talk about what's happened with the Memphis DOJ report. I mean, the excessive racism. And much of that police force, if not half of it, is Black. Tyree Nichols, what happened? They beat him to death. Beat him to death. They have what they call the jump out boys there, where the police follow you and jump out the car like they did to the young man on the west side here and kill you. Come on. I mean, and we're going to contrast that with the CEO killing suspect, who has not even been charged with murder yet. He's been charged with gun possession. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Think about it. Got another hour of the Santita Jackson Show coming up, everybody, on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Love you.
Right, peace.